Hello, everyone. My colleague Irina and I work for Apple, and we are part of the Diamante project. And some of the results of this project will be presented today during this webinar. So briefly, this is what we'll be talking about. You can use the code to download the presentation if you wish. It's already publicly available, but it will be available on your website, and Marisa will send you the link. These are the 4 topics that we will cover today: quality in institutional open access publishing. Then we will talk briefly about the capacity center for knowledge exchange and collaborative tools that will be developed within the project, about financial sustainability of institutional publishing, and then about recommendations for policies for policymakers. The AMAS project is funded by the European Commission, and it started in September 2022, and it will last for 3 years. And it includes various institutions and scholarly organizations from 12 European countries, but many of these organizations involved in the project are internationally active, so they're covering international audiences, so it is expected to have a huge international coverage. The expected results are related to the 4 topics that I mentioned. So this is an extensible quality standard for institutional publishing, and it's expected next year. I will mention this briefly in my part of the presentation. Then some recommendations for financial sustainability. We are now working on this. Policy recommendation, and there will be a capacity center, and relevant tools will be developed and available through a common access point on the internet. You will be able to access these various materials that could act as support to your work in publishing. So I'll briefly cover the issue of quality. It is associated with one of the first outcomes of the project that is expected next year, this EXIP, this standard for institutional publishing. First of all, I need to say that the project focuses on institutional Diamond open access publishing. Diamond open access is a concept where neither authors nor readers pay for to get access or to publish. And basically most institutions, especially public institutions in Europe and worldwide, conform to this model. So it's quite synonymous if we say institutional and diamond. And the project seeks to support these institutions that they are not necessarily professional publishers. They rely on volunteer work. Sometimes they don't really know how to improve their journals, or other publications, and that's the idea of the project, to support this. But the concept of quality, it's a key concept in this project, and this concept is quite complicated, because when we started working on the creation of this standard that will appear next year, we first did an analysis of the existing quality standards, funding criteria, recommendations, etc. And it was obvious from the outset that everybody defines concept in their own terms. So if you're a funder, you may, especially a national funder, you may focus on the impact measured quantitatively. But you also, in case of European Commission, you can focus on open access. Indexing databases, of course, they have their own metrics, impacts, etc. So they focus on this, and if they have some criteria, and they usually have for inclusion, they usually define quality in these terms, in terms of impact. Of course, you have to meet some other criteria of transparency, of I don't know, research integrity, etc. But it's basically about impact. Authors have a different perception of quality, readers, etc. So it's quite complicated, and for us, it was quite complicated to take something that is really useful for us. We analyzed these documents, and basically what we discovered is that most of them don't specifically address in open access. So they are about publishing in general, they're about publishing journals or about publishing books, but they don't say, okay, these are recommendations for open access journals, except for those in the OAJ where a journal needs to be an open access journal, but basically they are dealing with publishing in general. So that was one of the challenges that we encountered. Also, another problem that I've already mentioned are those so-called proxies for quality. So basically an indicator, a bibliometric indicator, for example, like an impact factor is usually taken as a measure of quality, or a publisher, if a publisher is a famous international publisher, very rich one, etc., then it's, you know, a high quality journal, etc. So these criteria are very, very often present in the community. It's very difficult to explain that it's not quite so. Then open access publishers, especially institutional open access publishers, they usually lack funds, not only money, but more often they lack people. And that's a challenge, because if you want to impose a kind of a standard, then you have to take this into account, because they have limits that they have to take into account. Then also a hugely discouraging factor is that the fact that research assessment systems rely on quantitative indicators, on impact factors, and it happens that many journals that don't have impact factors, an impact factor, they don't really have high submission rates. They struggle to get authors to publish with them, and that's a problem. That's an outer problem. It's not an intrinsic problem for them, but it's something that comes through the system. And also there are many myths. For example, that the higher the impact factor, the better the quality of the journal. And also there is a prejudice that open access publishers cannot attain the quality and the functionalities offered by commercial publishers. I'll mention this later also. And also that commercial publishers ensure better visibility, which I will also show that it's not quite true, and that basically for most journals it's fine if they're indexed by Web of Science and Scopus, and that's quite enough. They don't have to do anything else, because they will have an optimal visibility and an outreach. So how...
There is a request if you could slow down a bit.
Okay, but yeah, for the sake of time. Yeah, sorry.
No, we have time. Don't worry. Don't rush, please.
Okay. So in the project, we rely on the 7 core components of scholarly publishing, and these are these components. And when talking about quality, we will be talking about quality in these 7 core components, and this structure will appear in all on the project. Somebody muted me, sorry. So these are funding, ownership and governance, open science practices, editorial quality, technical service efficiency, visibility, marketing, and impact, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And the first version, and this is a link, this image is a link, so you will be able to click and read the first version of this standard. And now we are working on the second version, which will appear, the final version, which will appear early next year. So quality, we discuss quality in these categories, and we try to define quality in each of them. And one of the first outcomes of the project, even before defining the standard, is a kind of an overview of the existing practices. So this checklist, it's available on the AMAS website. It's created based on the analysis of the various documents. So we analyzed about nearly 60 documents to see what is considered quality in these documents, and we adjusted what we found in these documents. We adjusted it to the open access context and to the institutional publishing context. And this checklist is intended for publishers mostly, and it's I think it's very simple to use. So you have at the beginning of the list, you have the some visual and color coding, which suggests that if you, these are questions in the checklist, and if your answer is no to a particular question, then you need to take actions, and each of the icons indicate the action. So for example, if you don't regularly review and update your policies and guidelines, then you have to display the information about policies to make them transparent on your website, publisher's website. You should display the information at a journal level. For example, if you're a publisher, you have many journals, then on the journal level, policies should also be displayed. And you also have to have a procedure within your institution how to update policies and guidelines. So you need to have a procedure, for example, that says every 3 years we will revise these policies and publish a new version on our website. So these codes, these icons mean that this, and that's how you can use this. I will now summarize, instead of talking about each of the 7 components, I will summarize something that I see as pillars of quality in Diamond open access journals, and also in open access journals in general. So I just limit myself to 3 of these pillars, and you will see that all the other things can also be are also contained there. So it's very important for open access journals to be transparent. All of their policies, procedures, everything should be transparently displayed on the website. Now it's easier for journals to understand this, because if they want to be indexed with the OAJ, then these requirements are very simply explained. But in previously it was something that, you know, it was self-explaining. The journals considered this self-explaining. They didn't find it necessary to make these policies available on their website, and this was a cause of many problems. So it's very important to be transparent. To the principles of research integrity should be included on your website. Everything should be explained in a simple language so that authors can understand. And in April, we developed a kind of a policy template. It was created in a project in 2016, in a local project in Serbia, but it's been updated, and you can find an updated version on this link. And I highly recommend you to take a look at it, and you can find some inspiration there how to make your policies more transparent, or how to update them. So basically, when I'm talking also about these pillars, I'm not interfering with the content. So content is something that I assume that you as editors know how to handle. So it's implied that you need to implement standard quality standards that are used in particular disciplines. So I'm not talking about the content. I'm talking more about the governance and technical implementation of the publishing process. Another very important pillar is interoperability, and I believe that this is crucial. And I believe that in terms of interoperability, open access journals can sometimes have advantages over commercial journals, because they are open access and they are intended to be visible. So I put some icons here so that you can see that technology can support very, very efficiently your publishing process. And in technical terms, although you may not have much money, you may be able to be as efficient as some commercial publishers if you use these tools wisely. For example, one of the advantages that you have is that you have this hosting platform, which is offered as software as a service. And it relies on open journal systems, which is a very good publishing system, which offers professional functionalities. So if you use this system wisely, it will ensure good visibility to your journal and make it easier for you to manage. So it's very important to take these things into account. There will be another project. Technical aspects will be covered briefly in the Amos project, but there will be another project, Craft OA. It goes in parallel with the Amos, and it will provide more technical guidance. So keep an eye on this project. You will be able to find useful information there. And now this is one of the slides that I usually use to show what I'm talking now about, that basically if you have an open access journal that uses a publishing system such as OJS, or such as, for example, Janeway, and if you connect your journal with or your publishing system with aggregators such as, for example, OpenAir, or you index your journal with the OAJ and deliver your metadata to aggregators such as Core and Base, etc., you will probably have a better visibility, general visibility. I'm not talking about, those people who only keep an eye on one database and only go to Scopus and search there. I'm not talking about these people. I'm talking about people who are searching beyond commercial databases. You will probably have better general visibility, for example, in Google Scholar. Also, your content, full text content, will be visible, and you will also still be able to deliver your content to commercial aggregators such as EBSCO. So basically, if you have a good publishing platform that is interoperable, it doesn't have to be shiny, it doesn't have to be have all sorts of trinkets, it doesn't have to have a superior interface design. It needs to be set up properly, and then you will be able to communicate and to disseminate your information very, very widely. So if we are talking about commercial publishers, they will be able to deliver their metadata to Dimensions, but most of them would not be interested for these aggregators nor for WorldCat. So basically only a limited part of their content will have such a wide outreach and visibility. So this is something that should be taken seriously, because this is an advantage of open access journals. Another huge potential lies in the implementation and integration of the publishing process with other open science practices. And this is a really interesting developing area. For example, this image shows on the right, it shows how a journal or rather a publishing platform can handle a open peer review process, which actually contributes to the integrity of you as a publisher and of your journal, because it's more transparent. Also, there are various. We usually, in my country, we usually advise journals. They haven't started doing this yet, but we advise them to adopt something related to the overlay journals process and approach, because overlay journals, they rely on preprint servers, and they are actually searching for their content there. So we for example advised our journals to go and look at the various preprint platforms and to try to recruit content there, to contact the authors and to include these papers after contacting the authors, include these papers in the peer review process and eventually publish them. Also, we encourage journals to encourage authors to share research data and to share software. And this is quite a new area, because sometimes they don't know how to connect everything. But even in commercial journals, these types of content are not really connected well. And I'll show you an example of a Diamond open access journal where they publish they try, and it's included in their policy, they try to include open science practices in their publishing workflows. So this is an article, and this article was previously published as a preprint, and the first link on the right shows a link to the preprint. Also, they published code, and there is also link to the code, and they also published some supplementary materials. And all of these have persistent identifiers. So this is a DOI for the preprint. And the article also has its own DOI. And if they are connected in this way, it's very transparent. Nobody can say, oh, but that's a preprint, I didn't know. Everything is quite transparent. So this is something that could be done also, that could be implemented in your publishing platforms. And it's not that technically difficult. It's more like an organizational issue. So I have to think about this, to plan this, and then develop a procedure how to handle this, who will inform whom, etc. And it's feasible, and it's a very good practice. So also there was a question that Marisa forwarded to us, and that's why I decided to include these 3 slides. This is about, there was a question how to establish a Diamond Open Access journal. And it's quite tricky. We usually skip this question, but many of the resources that will be provided within the Diamas project will actually support this process, and will provide instructions how to implement, how to establish a journal, what you need to do. So this is not a very systematic overview. This is a kind of checklist, but it can be rearranged. And this is based on my experience of working with journals. So I put some things here. I won't explain it in detail. I will just say that I put some issues here because I recognize them as something that publishers usually forget. For example, when a researcher or a university professor is an editor and they have to handle everything, they don't really know always that there is an ISSN agency, that they have to contact the National Library to inquire, etc. So that's why I put these items in the list. Also, if they want to change something to their journal, either title, to add a subtitle, to change publishing frequency, this is something that needs to be resolved with the National ISSN agency, and they have to inform the agency about this. And this is something that they usually forget to do. So that's why I put it there. Also, this first slide actually explains the planning process, the things that need to be done before actually establishing a platform. So, for example, we usually skip institutional decisions, or we don't publish them, we don't mention them in our policies, and they are important. So this is something that, you know, it's important for a journal. Imagine an author coming from a different part of the world, and they don't really know, like your users, your community, they know who this institution is, but they coming from the other part of the world, they may not know. They might think that a journal is a predatory journal. So basically, it's important to mention these things, that there is an editorial board which was established based on this and that decision, and that the journal was established based on this and that decision. So these are the things that publishers usually just omit. Also, about, for example, DOIs, it's important to plan this, because DOIs are crucial today for many things, for tracking open citations, for all sorts of stuff. And also, archiving is usually not taken seriously, and long-term preservation. So these arrangements should be planned at the beginning, and usually national libraries offer some support in this. And this is at the very beginning, you should contact your national library to see whether they have an archiving option. And also legal deposit. Although a journal is a digital journal, you have an obligation to deposit a copy with the National Library. So these are the things that publishers usually skip. On the second slide, these things are more, you are more familiar with them, so it's crucial to draft the policies, and also it's crucial to have a kind of a quality control workflows, to have a kind of sort of monitoring, to know how you perform. And in this this part, you have this checklist that I showed already, so you will find very useful information in this checklist, and you will be able to use it to support you in each of these steps. And also it's very important to plan for innovation, to connect with relevant communities and organizations, because it's a way to get access to best practice, to exchange opinions and experiences, but also it's a good way to find new authors and new reviewers and possibly new members of the editorial board. And also it's very important, and this is something that publishers usually forget, it's very important to keep your records up to date everywhere. For example, if you're indexed with DOAJ and you make some changes, for example, in your policies, or you decide to abandon APCs or whatever, then you need to inform all these indexing databases, National Library, all the other libraries. You need to inform them, and actually that they should, or you can do this independently, you should update these records. So basically, this is all from me, and now Irina will proceed further.
Thanks a lot, Milica. Share my slides. So I'll cover some areas around capacity center, financial sustainability, and policy recommendations, and then I hope we can have a Q&A session and also discussion, because it would be useful to hear what you would need and how the project could support you. We are going to set up a capacity center. It's called in the project Common Access Point, but in fact it's a knowledge exchange hub where there will be a database or a registry of institutional publishers and also institutional publishing service providers. So that's a little bit awkward terminology that is being used in the project. There will also be a forum, and there will be a tool suite where you can find useful resources, quick answers for the questions that you might have about Diamante Open Access Publishing. So it's both a collection of useful resources that are easy to find, and it's also a space for discussions. And you already have that in Portugal, which is great. Not every country has that, and with these forums, the idea is that it could be a European conversation, and the way we want to build it, we want to build on what already exists in countries. So, for example, you already have Pabino discussion space in Portugal, so you'll be part of this knowledge exchange hub for the Portuguese journals from Portugal, and then there will be similar initiatives from France, from other countries, and in case there is no national initiative yet, and a project, overall European resources will feed that need. And then ideally it will be part of a global federation of Diamond OAs that is also being set up, but in the project we are only working on the European level. All of this is still being built. We are discussing some use cases, what a journal editor would like to find, or what a librarian would like to find on such a space. There will be more developments next year, and we'll share them with you. And if you already have some ideas what would you need in terms of resources, or what would you like to see in such European knowledge hub space? You can drop ideas in a chat, or you can raise a hand, and we can talk about this in a minute. Another topic that we are trying to address is financial sustainability of institutional publishing, because it's really a challenge. I know that a lot of you are committing basically voluntary work to run all that, and we're trying to see how that could be better supported on the European level. And our colleagues published a blog post, what we think about financial sustainability, which is, of course, very, very complex topic, because is it sustainability of a journal, or is it sustainability of a publishing unit in a university or research institute, or is it sustainability of no-fee Diamond Open Access publishing in general, and then whose responsibility is to sustain that? Should we expect funders, ministries, institutions to support that, and is it on the national level, or is it on the European level? And then, of course, shared infrastructures for publishing play a huge role. And it's great that you do have that in Portugal, but not many other countries have. So I assume that already helps you a little bit. At least you don't need to spend time and effort on setting up journals platforms. But then it's also about people and communities, and then they bring to sustainability when they work together, and there should be a way to support them as well. And it's also about scalable public funding, because we believe that scholarly publishing services should be offered by not-for-profit institutions, and they should be funded by and with public money, not on the project basis, but on some kind of stable basis. And with European Council conclusion on the importance of Diamond Open Access, we hope there will be a European mechanism for that. And that's a topic behind our next activity, which is about recommendations for institutional leaders, funders, sponsors, donors, and policymakers on how they could support Diamond Open Access. And on Monday, Science Europe, which is an umbrella organization for science funders in Europe, hosted a meeting to start the process of formulating recommendations for funders, sponsors, and donors. And they describe the process that next year they will be having a series of co-designing discussions and high-level engagement workshops. And then in February 25, they will publish recommendations for European funders around that. Similarly, European University Association is leading the process on developing recommendations for institutional leaders, and they will be engaging with Open Science working group in EUA, and Eloy Rodriguez is a member, and they will also have a series of events for institutional leaders, and will release recommendations in 25, I think. And with national policymakers, I think it's really a matter of conversations with them and making sure that when national open science policies are introduced, Diamond Open Access is mentioned there, and there is also a funding stream that supports Diamond Open Access. So that's all from us.